Through her commitment to the cause, her ability to lead, and her passion, Susan B. Anthony led the charge to give women the right to vote, and that legacy is carried on today. Susan B. Anthony was born on November 15, 1820, in Rochester, New York. She came from a family of Quakers, which were members of the Religious Society of Friends. She grew up in a family that believed equality was wrong. This is significant because her experiences as a child led her to speaking up for what she thought, which was that women should be treated the same as men. Susan B. Anthony was an incredible teacher, believed in the temperance movement, and was against slavery. This led her to a long career in the women's rights reform. As a teacher, Susan B. Anthony was infuriated when she learned that men got paid 4 times as much money as women. Knowing this, it fueled her to fight to reform it and make important changes for women. Susan B. Anthony was a strong woman and born a leader. She guided the struggle for women's rights in the 18s. She used her ability to lead to her advantage. Anthony was a dedicated writer and lecturer. This helped her to reach women from all over the country and convince them to fight for the rights they have today. She traveled countries to give speeches, circulate petitions, and organize people who are fighting the same fight. All of this was helpful because it informed and inspired them to find out about the women's rights that they deserved. Surprisingly, she spoke and lectured in 29 towns and villages before her trial. She didn't do all of this work alone, but she partnered with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. This is significant because some people believe it was only Susan B. Anthony who fought to give women the right to vote, but Anthony was the lead. She organized many of the fights along her side. They even made a newspaper to inform people about women's rights called The Revolution. Being the leader she was, Susan B. Anthony led with her actions and words and inspired many people. Susan B. Anthony took matters in her own hands on November 5, 1872, and voted with a group of women in the presidential election. Election inspectors refused to register her. After threatening the inspector, Anthony convinced them to register her. The group of women proudly voted Republican on the ballot. This brave act showed people how serious she was about the right to cast her vote. Illegally, she wrote a letter to Elizabeth Cady Stanton on November 5, 1872. Dear Miss Stanton, well, I have been and gone and done it. Positively voted the Republican ticket straight. This a.m. at 7 o'clock and swore my vote in at that. Was registered on Friday, and 15 other women followed suit in this ward. Then on Sunday, others, some 20 or 30, other women tried to register, but all but 2 were refused. All my 3 sisters voted. Rhonda D. Garmo and Amy Post was rejected, and she will immediately bring action against the registrars. Then another woman who was registered but vote refused will bring action for that. I hope the morning telegrams will tell of many women all over the country trying to vote. It is splendid that without any concert of action, so many should have moved here so impromptu. Susan B. Anthony ends her letter to Elizabeth by saying, if only now all the women, suffrage women, would work to this end of enforcing the existing Constitution, supremacy of national law over state law, what strides we might make this very winter. But I'm awfully tired. For 5 days I have been on the constant run, but displayed a purpose, so I'll write. I hope you voted, too. Affectionately, Susan B. Anthony. This letter is significant because it shows her persistence and her commitment to the cause. After Anthony wrote the letter to Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a commissioner came on November 14th. He came to warrant for an arrest on Susan B. Anthony and the 14 other women who voted. Since the election inspectors let Anthony and the 14 women vote, they got arrested too. When the deputy marshal came, she demanded to be arrested properly. She forced the deputy to put handcuffs on her. This is significant because she showed the deputy that she wanted the same rights as men got. She refused to pay her $100 fine because she thought that if you are a citizen, you should be able to vote too. Susan B. Anthony fought for women's rights her whole life, and 14 years after she died, She was recognized for being the best-known advocate of women's suffrage. This is imperative because all of her work finally paid off, and she achieved her goal of giving women the right to vote. She used her passion to convince and ignite others to rally around her cause. This helped her get people on her side and eventually fight for women's rights. All of these things helped her be remembered in history forever. Undeniably, Susan B. Anthony was responsible for the most important amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The 19th Amendment refined citizenship and rights were protected by the federal government. The government didn't make the 19th Amendment until August 18, 1920, which was 14 years after Susan B. Anthony died. She stated, "To think I have more than 60 years of hard struggle for a little liberty, then die without it is so cruel." This proves her huge disappointment in not being able to witness women voting. Along with being responsible for fighting for changes to the Constitution, her picture was put on a silver dollar coin. This is key because she finally got recognized for making a big change in society for women. In conclusion, Susan B. Anthony is legendary for many reasons. She fought her whole life for women to have the same rights as men. Her commitment to the cause, her capability to lead, and her devotion make it easy to see why Susan B. Anthony holds an important place in our country's history.